Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to call this to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this is one of the fun meetings of the year because we get to talk about our accomplishments for the year and also present the budget for the following year. I will start first with a state of the town, if you will, and then I'll turn it over to Barney for the presentation. We'll then have our public hearing for next year's budget and adjourn. So let's get started. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It's a true privilege to be with you tonight to deliver the state of the town, an opportunity to reflect on the meaningful progress we've made together over the past year and to look ahead to what's on the horizon. It's also a moment to recognize the extraordinary people, including residents, council members, volunteers, and town staff who make this community such a vibrant and exceptional place to call home. Over the past year, the Town Council was deeply engaged in several vital issues, and we've seen thoughtful planning turn into visible results across infrastructure, policymaking, community development, and resident engagement. We finalized several key legal agreements and development matters in support of Corso Chevy Chase, a major senior living development that will offer 517 independent living, assisted living, and memory care units. These include a declaration of covenants, which memorializes commitments related to perpetual use of the land and improvements that are enforceable by the town. In addition, we ratified a construction management agreement and town garage lease, reviewed and approved a stormwater management plan and a tree protection plan, and negotiated safety protocols. All of this, along with the previous work to finalize the site plan, was a substantial effort, and it demonstrates our commitment to facilitating smart, well-integrated development that meets regional housing needs while responding to the surrounding neighborhood. We also work closely with residents most directly impacted by the Purple Line construction, considering privacy screening options that strike a balance between infrastructure expansion and maintaining neighborhood quality of life. As we await full operations, there is more work ahead. But thanks to the relationships we have built with both the county and State Department of Transportation staff, we're in a strong position to continue advocating effectively on residents' behalf. Our commitment to partnership extended beyond town's borders. This year, we advanced collaborative efforts with county and developer stakeholders on Bethesda Market Park, including an increase in our level of support from $4 million to $7.5 million. Once complete, the park will fulfill a major goal of the Bethesda Downtown Plan by providing much needed urban green space to match Bethesda's continued growth. Upon finalization of an agreement between the developers and the county, we expect to be deeply involved in this coming year in the finalization of the design of the park and its amenities. Closer to home, we completed the renovation of Zimmerman Park, which now features a partially enclosed park, benches, a picnic table, new trees, and the beautifully landscaped Scott Fossler pathway, which we formally dedicated a couple of weeks ago in honor of our former mayor. We also stabilized a portion of Copeland Run, completed a long-awaited configuration of the Leland East intersection, advocated for and achieved installation of a proper red light crosswalk signal across East-West Highway and Maple Avenue, and continued to work with WSSC to improve drainage at Leland and Woodbine. We updated our overgrown vegetation regulations to meet ADA standards, accessibility standards, and adopted policies to allow EV charging stations within the town right of way, advancing our sustainability goals while responding to resident needs. We continue to support our tree canopy through subsidies for planting and maintenance, reinforcing our longstanding commitment to environmental health. Equally important, we continue to foster community connections, hosting dozens of events throughout the year, from cybersecurity, book club, and theater discussions to play groups, tastings, fundraisers, happy hours, eco-fests, concerts, and seasonal festivities. These gatherings reminded us that while infrastructure matters, the soul of our town is found in its people and shared experiences. At the county and state levels, we stay deeply engaged in policy developments, particularly as they related to zoning and housing. We hosted public forums featuring County Executive Elrich, County Council members, and county planning staff, helping residents to better understand the complex initiatives like the Attainable Housing Strategies Initiative, spearheaded by the County Planning Board, and the current Workforce Housing Now proposal spearheaded by Council members Friedson and Fanny Gonzalez. These efforts enabled residents to engage meaningfully with proposals that could shape our neighborhood for generations. Thanks to coordination with the Montgomery County State Delegation, we helped advance legislation that clarifies municipal regulatory authority, ensuring that county municipalities like ours can regulate small-scale multifamily housing up to 4 units in the same manner as we currently do for single-family homes. We also submitted formal comments to the County Council on the Bethesda Downtown Plan Minor Master Plan Amendment, which contributed to the County Council's decision to conduct a comprehensive 5-year review of the plan in conjunction with eliminating the development cap. This was an important accountability measure for our community. Looking ahead, our priorities remain clear. We will continue advancing the Bethesda Market Park project in close partnership with the county and developers, ensuring that the park reflects both our financial commitment and our community's priorities. We are engaged in conversations about reopening the Capitol Crescent Trail and improving Elm Street Park, which is slated to receive a new and expanded playground. We are reviewing and updating our water drainage ordinances to better reflect climate realities. We will continue improving traffic flow and pedestrian safety through speed humps, LED signage, crosswalks, and enhanced enforcement, including parking. And we will continue working with SHA and the county to improve vehicular and pedestrian safety on Bradley Lane. We're exploring a potential conversion of streetlights to LED in collaboration with Pepco. And we'll soon launch a town-wide survey to understand how residents are approaching environmental sustainability and how the town can better support these efforts. Of course, while I'm the one delivering this address, it's important to acknowledge that none of this work happens in a vacuum. It's truly a team effort, driven by the dedication of my fellow town council members, our incredible town staff, and our passionate volunteers and committee members. Our town council and committee members serve without compensation, giving their time and talent simply because they care deeply about this town and want to make it the best it can be. Tonight, in addition to offering thanks to Barney Rush and Rich Brancato, who is unfortunately unable to join us this evening, I want to offer special thanks to 2 town council members whose terms are coming to a close, Stephanie Martz and Joy White. Stephanie, in your 2 years on the council, you've brought sharp insight and remarkable poise to every issue, whether it was providing wise counsel about our recent technical amendment, reviewing the Corso agreements, or helping to plan wonderful community programming. You were doing all of this while in your day job, having to deal with an intense stretch of federal executive orders over the past few months. We're all grateful for your service. Joy, over the past 4 years, you have been a steady and thoughtful presence in every discussion. Your leadership with the Climate and Environment and Long-Range Planning Committees helped advance meaningful initiatives, including the passage of the gas-powered leaf blower ban. You also played a key role in shaping our response to county zoning proposals and represented the town with great professionalism during our Maryland Municipal League legislative meetings. Your contributions have left a lasting impact. As a small token of our appreciation, we'd like to offer each of you the option to plant a tree in your name within the town or plant beautiful bulbs on your own properties. We hope that it will be a lasting reminder of your time on the council and your contributions to our community. We thank you both for your dedication, wisdom, partnership, and service. May you look back on this time with pride and fond memories. And to all our residents, thank you for your trust, your engagement, and care for our town. The past year was one of progress and collaboration, and I have no doubt that the year ahead will bring even more to be proud of. together. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. Because Rich Brancato is away, I've been asked to give the presentation for the budget. First of all, I have to say I have not seen better hair in a long time than I see in that picture of you, Kirk. But in starting off, I first want to say a very special thanks to you, Irene, for your really superb leadership of this town for the last 2 years. She correctly went over the long list of accomplishments, but she was the leader of a large number of those. And in particular, I want to cite the matter of getting clarity on the town authority that required a new law to be passed in Annapolis. This could not be done solely by the town. It had to be done in conjunction with all the other municipalities. And it is not easy to put together and lead a consortium of 10 or 11 other towns, each with their own governments, but to demonstrate by pulling all those different municipalities together that we really had a deep commitment across the board to really get this clarification. And it was that breadth of support that brought on the support of our county council member, Andrew Friedson, also the planning board, and also Jared Solomon, who was our leader in the state assembly to get this done. But it would not have happened without that broad support across these communities. And Irene, you're the one who brought it together. So thank you very much for your leadership. It was really terrific. Okay, Todd, do you want to put up the slides? Everyone's been waiting all night to see.
Will do.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, this is first a summary of the fiscal year that's ending at the end of June. The thing that certainly stares out at anyone is that we're showing a projected surplus of $1.75 million. I think that calls for some explanation. We don't plan to have a surplus of $1.75 million as a normal event. In the initial budget, the surplus had been anticipated to be about $1 million. But that very substantially arose because of the ARPA money that the town received as a grant, and which we were now using to basically pay for town services, which in turn frees up money to add to our reserves. So really, it's using the money properly. It's in accordance with what ARPA permitted. But ultimately, the money in a residual way ends up in our reserves, which will support, for example, the farm women's market. But that's almost $750,000. If you put that aside, the underlying surplus that we really envisioned was around $250,000, basically around 5% of our total expenses. So nothing very special. What did surprise us is that over the course of the year, we ended up saving another $750,000. These savings were not really in operating expenses. Those are routine. We know them. We're managed very well, but largely turned out to be changes in our capital expenditures. And a lot of that had to do simply with the fact that some paving and concrete work that we had thought we'd be doing this fiscal year actually is going to be pushed into next fiscal year. So again, there wasn't really that much of a fundamental change. We also did actually save some money in stormwater management, about $80,000. There was also a reduced expenditure of $130,000 in special infrastructure projects, one of which was not undertaken, the other of which at Leland and East turned out to be a lot less expensive than we thought. We saved some money in signage. We also saved a lot of money in consultants and engineering that we didn't need, partly because the Farm Women's Market project went more slowly than we expected. We didn't have to use that budget. So that really is what happened and how we ended up with that very nice surplus. We don't plan to have that again. I will share that with you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead. So looking ahead to 2026, to fiscal 2026, obviously the income tax is the lion's share of the revenue that we expect to get, $3.4 million. That's almost exactly the same amount that we have received in fiscal 2025. And the math of that is really very simple, though we have to guess a little bit about it. But essentially, the town receives exactly 17% of the county income tax, the $3.2 income tax that residents pay to the county. We get 17% of 3.2% of what residents pay. And we feel pretty confident about this number. I will cite, because obviously we're potentially going through a very difficult year in terms of some residents who may well have lost their jobs because of the cutbacks in the federal government and the difference in the stock market. But it's important to note that what we actually receive in FY26 from July 1 of 2025 to June 30th of 2026 basically represents tax receipts that go back to calendar 2024 and even back to calendar 2023, okay? So those years are locked in. They were good years. So because our revenues in our upcoming fiscal year derive from those past calendar years, we can have a fair amount of confidence that this number is a reasonable bet. Having said that, when we come to this time next year, we will have to be taking a careful look at how the economy is done and how residents in our town have done, and potentially need to adjust that number. The other thing that is important to note on the interest income, this used to be a tiny, tiny little sliver, but thanks to the Fed, it's now no longer a tiny sliver. We're getting 3.5% to 4%. The money is very safely invested through a county-wide program that's managed by the county in either government securities or CDs. And we expect to get $750,000, which is pretty healthy. The other thing I'd point out is the next largest item, which is the county tax duplication reimbursement, which is meant to repay us for some services we provide that otherwise our town residents are paying property tax for. However, we are not eligible for that reimbursement unless we have some level of local property tax, which is why you see the other item of $131,000. We'll have another couple of slides about that, but that represents about $125 per family in the town. But for that expenditure, that collection, we pick up the additional $275,000 of a grant from the county. So that's why we put those together. The other thoughts I want to mention here, which if anyone looks carefully at the numbers, you'll note that the revenues that we're projecting for next year are about 5 million. From last year's 5.7 million. That reduction is almost entirely due to the flow of the ARPA money. Last year, we had $740,000 that we were able to flow through. Going into next fiscal year, we only have $129,000 left. So that's what's flowing through. That difference represents the difference in revenues that you see. Other than that, they're essentially exactly the same. With that, we can move on to the next slide, which talks a bit more about the property taxes. What we have done as the assessments have risen across the county, and certainly in our town, we have reduced the charge per $100 so that the total amount of money we collect stays the same. So that essentially that $125 average per household is constant. And we don't see any uplift. We're not taking any uplift in revenue because of the further increases in assessments. That's been a fairly consistent policy, as you can see, for us going back to fiscal year 17. Next, Todd. Also, it's useful to compare the property tax rates that we pay to other municipalities, and you can see how very low they are. I think very reasonable. Okay. So looking ahead to the operating expenditures for this coming year, the main ones are obvious ones year over year. The salaries and benefits, just over $1 million. Sanitation, waste removal, $900,000. Public safety, over $700,000. I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. The others are very standard that we've had year over year without any major differences. I think we wanted to explore a bit, and I go to the next slide. Okay, good. Here are the major contractual costs that we have for the year. Police, $700,000. Household trash, $366,000. Recycling, leaf collection, tree maintenance, landscaping. We have raised sidewalk snow removal by $20,000 because of how quickly we spent it last year. And the next slide, please. These are the proposed capital expenditures, overwhelmingly for streets and sidewalks. And as you'll see in a moment, major item and the major increase is in that category, and that is mostly because of, as I said before, the deferral of work that was not undertaken in FY25, but will be taken in FY26. This slide highlights sort of some of the major changes, and again, is trying to reach the explanation. We're showing an expected total expenditure for FY26 of 4.8 million compared to the actual expenditures for last year of 3.9. Why the increase? And this slide is attempting to demonstrate where that increase comes from. The streets and sidewalks are by far the largest change. And as you can appreciate, all you have to do is change $300,000 from one year to the next, and suddenly that's a $600,000 delta. So that's essentially what happened there in the first line. The police is something which we ought to explain a bit more thoroughly. For a number of years, we've had 2 off-duty cops for every 3 8-hour periods of the day. That rotates without any advertisement, so nobody knows exactly what periods of the day the cops will be here, but 2 out of every 3 8-hour shifts is covered. In addition, we also have a number of 4-hour shifts for the afternoon. That arose some years ago when residents were very concerned about traffic in the afternoon at rush hour and kids on sidewalks and wanted some additional vigilance for that period of the day. So that's been a very stable level for a number of years, and we've not heard any pushback from residents. We've sensed that generally people feel that's fine. But what has happened, and this I'm sure people are well aware of, is that there's a shortage of police officers in Montgomery County, quite a severe one. It's going to take them many years to get back to the level that they would wish to be. What that has meant is the market, demand and supply for off-duty cops has worked in favor of the cops. So the result is that there has to be a fairly material increase in what we're prepared to pay the officers in order to attract their services. We had to raise our offer from $55–60 an hour up to $80–85 an hour, and that constitutes that increase. By way of comparison, the off-duty policemen and police officers are in other cases able to get as much as $100 an hour when they're taking on security assignments. So we are not paying the highest that's out there, but we were advised, and we accept it as true, that we had to substantially increase the salary, or not the salary, but the hourly amount, in order to make sure we could attract the level of service which our residents are expecting. The other item on leaf collection, that's a contract that is going to be let out to bid this year. And this is the estimate that the staff has prepared. It does include the requirement that the leaves that are pushed underneath the vacuum have to be gathered entirely by a battery-powered system and cannot use the gas-powered system. And this will require more time, additional labor, and hence some additional cost. There are a few reductions that you also see there. The only other items that are not on that chart, very small, consultants, additional 20,000. I'm sorry, sidewalk snow removal, an additional 20,000. Consultants and engineer, another 15,000. Nothing very substantial. This chart summarizes the main changes that have led to the increase in overall total expenditures for FY26. Todd, next. So looking at the budget summary for next year, again, we're proposing a surplus of $222,000. That includes the ARPA grant of $179,000, the remaining amount of the ARPA grant. If you sort of take that out, you will see that our budget is really very close to being balanced. There's really not a lot of extra money that we're looking at for next year. So we will be hopeful that our revenue projections will hold and our expenditure projections are hold so that we can end up with a balanced budget. And that, I think, is everything that I wanted to say. And are there any questions? Or I guess we have a public hearing. So.
We do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're now going to have a public hearing on the presented budget. Thank you, Barney, for presenting that. And I open it up to anyone that would like to provide some comments. And also online if you want to raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone motioning. Yeah. Sure, come on. Yeah, only for the record. Thank you. Oh, this way is probably better.
I have another issue that I
If
wanted to
you could
talk
just
about.
introduce yourself. for
Oh,
the record.
Deborah Vollmer. I live at 7202 44th Street. I had another issue I wanted to address, but we're talking about the budget tonight, so I'm going to stick to that. But I have some questions. There's reference to income tax and I believe also property tax. And is that somehow that we get back property tax from the county and income tax from state income tax, or how? I'm unclear as to how that
Sure.
works.
When we pay our state income taxes, we pay it entirely to the state, both the state portion and the county portion. But when we fill out our tax returns, you can actually see those are calculated separately. We have to add them together and we pay them to the state. So the state then takes on the responsibility of reimbursing to the town that formula of 17% or 3.2%. So the county is not involved in the mechanics of that reimbursement, but what it is reimbursing to us is that fraction of the county income tax. And that's because the town is undertaking services that otherwise the county would have to provide, and taking care of the streets and sanitation, trash, everything else.
Okay. All right.
All right.
That's it. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll close the public comment period, and I'm happy to entertain discussion and a motion. It can't be us.
I move that we approve the FY26 budget.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is majority, I guess. I can't say unanimous, whoever's here. Yeah. I'm sure Rich would have felt the same. Wonderful. Thank you all for your hard work this year. Appreciate it. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to cover before we adjourn for the evening? Oh, I understand. We just passed the budget, so we're good. If you have something else that you'd like to bring up.
I've raised this before, but I think it's important to raise it again. When we're talking about community, I want to give the moderator of Town Neighbors some credit, because I know she works incredibly hard to basically keep a listserv running. However, there has been a situation that's arisen, a disagreement between a listserv member and the moderator. Many attempts to try to resolve just amicably hasn't worked. I raised this issue before. I think you can't get away from the fact that even though Town Neighbors is considered to be a private listserv, it serves multiple public functions. In fact, we just had a town election, and I think there was as much information coming out through Town Neighbors as there was through the town crier itself and the town website. I know I've gotten arguments against this, but I do contend that even though Town Neighbors receives no funding from the town government, the town does endorse and promote Town Neighbors just by virtue of the fact that there is a link from the town website and the town crier weekly updates. And I think it is important that if the town has that kind of relationship where an entity is being endorsed, it's important that that entity treat its membership, or participants, members, whatever, fairly. And there is no process. This would be a good case for informal mediation, but there is no process whatsoever. So I have suggested before, I'm going to suggest again, that a mediation subcommittee be set up, perhaps under the Community Relations Committee, and that maybe that and legally nothing could be done in terms of requiring that, say, the moderator of the listserv would have to agree. But there would be a forum for which someone who is a listserv member who feels that she or he has been treated unfairly would be able to go somewhere when the moderator refuses to discuss the issue. I would note that this is about me, but it's not all about me. It sets an example to other listserv members, and I've talked to some who frankly are sometimes afraid to engage in discussion with the moderator if a message is denied because they don't want to anger her. Now, have a lot of sympathy for Wicca. She's not going to believe it, but I do. She's done a lot of hard work keeping this going. But I think we need some sort of process when we have this kind of impasse. And, part of what both the town government and town neighbors is about is enhancing the community within the town, community spirit. Where else do you go if you find a lost or injured pet on your property? Where else do you go when you find a piece of heirloom jewelry on the sidewalk in front of your house? Where else do you go when there's a tree limb that's fallen and you know that there's a traffic hazard right in front of your house? Everyone posts on Town Neighbors. The way it's set now, I know what's going on with Town Neighbors. I cannot post. And that's wrong. And I'm told it's forever. And there really needs to be some way of dealing with it. And maybe the town has no way of enforcing it. Maybe the town shouldn't have a way of enforcing it without voluntary compliance. But there needs to be some sort of forum, some sort of mechanism to solve problems like this when they come up. So maybe I said that a little bit more coherently than I did at the last meeting where I brought up the same point, and I was very emotional. But I would stress, it's not just about me, it's about people as a whole. And I know the moderator has a lot on her plate, but I think she's lost her objectivity and sense of fairness. That's my view. There ought to be a way that I can talk it out and basically put forth my position that I shouldn't be denied the ability to post messages. It really is a kind of shunning, isolating, and I know gaslighting is a heavy term, but it's that. And I feel it deeply psychologically. So that's my statement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other folks who have a statement? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the hard work this year. And with that, we adjourn. Thank you.